Welcome to You Got Moxie, the podcast about the how of change-making. I'm your host, Julianne Crommett, and we're live from the Georgia State of the Industry Summit right here at Trilith Studios. My next guest is Christina Lee Storm. Christina has been an advocate and innovator at the forefront of new technologies in storytelling, from AR and VR to XR, as well as to the medium of animation from which she and I first met. She's also the founder of Playbook, and most recently worked with the Television Academy on their new AI standards. Enjoy this riveting conversation with Christina.
This episode of You Got Moxie is powered by Chat with Leaders Media. From life sciences to entertainment, we turn leadership insights into high-impact media. We're proud to be the production partner for today's episode, recorded live from the Georgia State of the Industry at Trilith Studios. Find out how we can help you elevate your brand at chatwithleaders.com.
Hi, Christina. Welcome to You Got Moxie.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's such a joy to have you here for our listeners. You and I have been friends a long time.
Yes, we have.
Yes. We, again, won't say years to just keep it, we met as children or something.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
But your work has taken you across so many different landscapes, and you sit at the intersection pretty much of all the conversations we're having today in
No
in
strange
media,
way.
in a very strange way. I'd love if maybe we start off with you just sharing a little bit about your journey, about, kind of, and also then what brought you here to the State of the Industry today in Georgia, and a little bit about your affinity for this place too.
Yeah. So, I do share this a little bit, but it all starts like childhood dream. Some people like, I watched Star Wars when I was a child or whatnot. But for me, I loved going to the movies. I loved being in the darkened theater and watching stories unfold and connecting to them in an interesting way through the craft and storytelling. It's very universal. So I knew kind of like fairly young, middle school, high school, I really wanted to do film. And that's what I aimed to do. My background's in feature film, independent producing. And then I kind of switched gears a little bit where I went into visual effects. And at the time, I asked a mentor who does a lot of work still in the emerging media space. But I said, I'm thinking about like going over to Rhythm and Hues to work in visual effects, but I've never done visual effects. And he said, every movie that I produce has visual effects. Now, granted, he was doing large films, but, and I think that moment when that happened was actually took me down this trajectory.
Yeah.
So I feel super, super fortunate from there because of just the CG and VFX pipeline. It was a natural progression to really think about what's around the corner. I loved animation, and Bonnie Arnold and we were on the same Producers Guild. I guess it's a board, national board. And
Bonnie, by the way, is a legend.
We love Bonnie. You came over to DreamWorks.
I did.
Yeah, when I was there.
We share this in common, everybody at DreamWorks Animation.
We love Bonnie Arnold.
The birthplace, actually, of a lot of amazing women, actually, in animation.
Because, a large part of, because of
Bonnie. Yeah.
So, was there, and then that just, during my tenure at DreamWorks Animation, really got into emerging technologies, real-time technology, motion capture, virtual production early on. This is before Mandalorian was like kind of did their tour of like, virtual production. That was there at DreamWorks. I ended up doing virtual reality. And a lot of people say, my business partner, Annie Hanlon, she says how virtual reality is the gateway drug into like everything else.
Oh, 100%
right?
It is. Yes.
Because then you're like, trying to figure out solutions for very complex, technically advanced ways of like, hey, I want to get some kind of storytelling in this headset that doesn't allow for me in a more traditional sense. So from there, I actually went back into producing, and then I went to Netflix and was director of virtual production for UCAN, and that was just trying to get like the next tier of innovation for film, television, and whatnot. And it wasn't really about the screens. A lot of people got caught up on screens, but it was really about the real time capabilities, which then that's sort of the foundation to now what I would say is next in line with our tool set is generative AI.
Yeah.
So after leaving Netflix, Annie Hanlon and I started our own company,
Amazing.
Playbook, PLBK, and it's a consultancy where we really leverage emerging tech to help tell great stories.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we have like 4 different buckets that we focus on. First is like producing in that space. So it's a little bit different when you're producing using emerging tech.
Right.
Then we have an R&D pocket, which I can get into. We have a really interesting thing that it's a platform that really helps to in a generative AI workflow, how to ensure copyright, which is a hot topic.
We will come back to that
yes,
in a minute.
We will.
Yes.
And then the third is education, which I think both of us feel very passionate about education.
1000%.
And then the fourth is obviously creative. So our creative endeavors in emerging technology, leverage storytelling.
Amazing. And it actually really feels like a playbook. In many ways, the 4 areas that you lined up, it works so perfectly with the name of your company. And I'd love to, we have to talk about this question of around just sort of ethics and AI, ownership, all of that.
Yeah.
Could you expound a little bit more on some of the work you've been doing in that space and a little bit about that bucket that you all are working on?
Yeah. So I think because I'm very future forward and I'm always thinking about emerging technologies, I felt that there was a need to help our industry sort of get there. I've always kind of been in that space as a former executive. Like, how do you help like the innovators that are like, out here and you're like, wait, hold on a second. And then you have traditional who are still maybe a little bit behind and you're kind of pulling them together and being that bridge. And so a lot of the work is, it's passion, volunteer work. I'm elected governor for the Television Academy's Emerging Media Programming Peer Group. And we're like the super users of emerging tech. So anything real time, Gen AI, we're always looking at new tools because we're trying to solve, again, complex technical problems. And how do we put more up on screen and whatever parameters that we have. And having heard just from fellow colleagues concerns, what does this mean? Is this, taking jobs and all of these things, but then also seeing like, hey, there are some interesting things that we can do creatively and trying to bridge those worlds. There was a lot of fear. So I felt like, how do we actually create agency?
Right.
How do we create agency for nearly 30,000 members of the Television Academy?
Yes.
They're professionals. They've had their craft. How do we help 31 different peer groups and not boil the ocean? And so it was really like, let's develop some practical like guidelines. We call it key considerations before using Gen AI in your next project. And it was really just to set three key principles: creative integrity, the legal aspects, as well as transparency, sustainability, and then framing those 3 key principles with questions that I'm a makeup artist, I'm a costume designer, I'm in the lighting peer group. Like, how do I engage? How do I what? And you could just literally go through the questions and sort of ask whether it's producers, leadership on the project, distributor, studio, whatnot. I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to be asking ourselves questions instead of assuming that, oh, this is happening, that we're going to be forced to that.
That's exactly
and that
right.
was really, for me, I think it was really supporting members to feel that they have some place in this, that they can be empowered, and they can actually learn more too by, if they're going to ask the questions, then you're going to try and dig a little bit more. And we have this motto, because we do a lot of education. We do an AI toolkit series where we say, hey, it's not, you're not forced to actually use a tool on a project, but it is kind of mandatory to learn about it.
Yes.
We should always be learning and being curious about the tools.
That's 100%. And I think what is so interesting is because you approached it through questions, I think a lot of times folks are always going to have an allergic reaction to mandates, right? Or being told like, oh, you have to do this or have to do that, especially in creative fields.
Yeah.
But this idea of an enduring curiosity around technology and it's sort of operating from that place through the way you approach it, I think is, first of all, brilliant, but also really practically, like the way into the conversation.
A little bit of critical thinking skills necessary.
No, what? Critical thinking.
Sandwiched with a little Gen AI.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what that sounds like. Exactly. Y'all,
Irony
that's
here.
your takeaway here. Critical thinking sandwiched with Gen AI. But
the other, the other way around.
Oh, 100%. And also thinking about, a lot of artists are also asking, and you all talked a little bit about this today on the panel as well here at State of the Industry, where you were talking about also, you and Barbara Ford Grant, another great leader in the space, around how artists can also, track the things they make. Like once you make something with generative AI, then what in terms of this? And I don't know if you want to share a little bit, because I'm sure folks are curious.
I mean, I think the next wave is really, and I encourage every individual to really do this. Own your IP.
Yes.
Own your IP. That's the name of the game, because right now, most of the ownership is taken by large organizations.
That's right.
And I think with the technology, it being able to be used by the average person per se, I think professionals currently with the craft have a total advantage because they're going to just take it up a notch. But I think that if you have something, if you're building something, don't just give it away.
That's right.
Don't read the terms and conditions, understand opt-in, opt-out, know where you go, where are you uploading, are you training someone else's larger model or, how do you own that? And I think we're a little bit away from that because it needs to hit. But if I'm telling you, if I'm saying it now, it'll come to pass. And I think
you've predicted so many things. I know it's going to come to pass. And I wonder also, is there sort of a set of standards around that could be made too, that help encourage people to ask these questions as well in terms of the platforms they're using?
I think you're putting some seeds in my brain to I think we might need to do that, have something there.
I know, and maybe perhaps we should upload it with this episode if we can get it done in time.
Yes.
Yeah, sound good? Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Also, y'all see we're live generating on the podcast.
Exactly.
This is what this is about.
The iteration of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also a question, because, we're here in Georgia today. I grew up here. I have deep roots here. This is a really special place also for filmmaking, and Trilith Studios where we are. I know you have a particular affinity for Georgia and for Trilith. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what brought you here today and your connection to this place. Yeah.
Well, a woman named Julian. You actually brought me here. I was invited, but I would say that I really do feel like Georgia and Trilith has designed and really been smart about bringing people together, thought leaders, filmmakers, creatives, storytellers. And so there is a stage here that I've worked on, and I have friends and colleagues, but it's such an amazing location. Not only can it be sustained through state-of-the-art facilities, equipment and whatnot, but it's been really neat to see the investment made with the ecosystem of the talent.
Yes.
And I would say, even despite the shifting of maybe the slate of projects, it doesn't necessarily mean that it all goes away.
That's right.
That's the key that's happening that for all of us to pay attention to is if the traditional slates and that kind of downstream type of work are lessened, but they're probably about the same to when we had the bubble. But I think it really provides opportunity. So if you had that, and I shared this on the panel, it's like, if I was here, I'd be super excited because I could actually find other fellow filmmakers, have an opportunity to create things. There's an amazing tax incentive here. So there's a lot of things lined up. And I just think that Trilith is really building that out. I got to special VIP tour.
Yeah.
Today over at the Trilith live area, and it's incredible. I think the shift of live is going to be so important. It's not just a post-COVID. I think it's just a marker of
Totally.
community, humanity, connection.
Yes.
As we know, communication is, what is it, 85%?
Of everything, of how you receive information.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, and then with the onslaught of like generative AI, I think people will want to, in order for them to know what is real,
Yes.
they'll want to be, it's going to need to be in person. So there's
100%.
something really neat how Trilith has designed that.
100%. And I couldn't agree with you. This is something that I feel like I'm talking about all the time, which is that I just shared this on the panel that I moderated on comedy, where you're seeing that Gen Alpha is going to the movie theaters more than Gen Z.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It is novel. It's an experience that they have no idea of. And this idea of like communal laughing at something, right? This idea of community and connection is actually going to become more valuable.
Yeah.
And the technology is, I totally agree with you, actually going to spur us more into finding the value in it, because that's the differentiator, right?
Yeah.
Did I hear it from my friend who I can see, who I can touch, that I know, right? Versus a random video, online, not, for nothing, but I'm going to have to make a decision there about how I get my information.
Yeah.
And we're going to see the local, I think, bloom a whole lot more because of that as well.
I think there's a lot of nice foundation laid here that allows for that to grow, the creativity to grow. So
100%.
it's really on the shoulders of the filmmakers to decide, hey, what am I going to do? And I think it's different. I've always been sort of an entrepreneur, independent, like got to put the projects together.
Right.
So it just makes sense. But for others that might not have had that in their careers, it was always like, I'm going to go from project to project. I think that might be a little bit of a learning curve, but people get there.
People get there, 100%. Well, and I think also the reality of us needing to have our humanness is a real thing in all the ways that means. And that's connection at the end of the day.
Even the work that I'm doing. So I have my company Playbook. Yeah. But I'm also doing work with Secret Level, which is an AI native studio. And what's great is the way I'm so head of studio long form. That's the role I play at Secret Level. And what's exciting is we're looking at, yes, we are making the most incredible premier Gen AI based projects and content, lots of different brand projects, but it's looking at it in a different way. It's not just like, oh, we used to do film or we used to do TV and now I'm doing it this way. And I think the wrong question is, oh, it's cheaper and it's cheaper. That's like leaving money on the table. Like,
100%.
I think the world building of it all, is it's more like this than linear. And so I think it was like 3 years ago after I left Netflix, I came out with this idea because I was like, people were asking me like, what do you see along in the horizon? And this was still early Gen AI days, so I wasn't really talking about it. No. But I talked about this entertainment umbrella. Yes. Where we no longer should be like, oh, everything should come from film or it should come from series or it should come from here. It's like the umbrella that you're holding has everything that's right across the board. Sports, AR, VR, music, podcasts.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. It could be anything.
Live,
webtoons. Yeah. I mean, vertical
but
comics.
If you build that within the framework of a world building,
100.
Then you're really, you're able to pull in your audience, and then you really know your audience.
That's right.
And you're giving them even more ways to intersect.
Correct. And they're also growing with you in the story world at the same token. Yeah. And so the investment grows over time emotionally and in every other way imaginable. This is 100% how people should be thinking about content. Yeah. I co-sign this.
We've been talking about this for a while.
I know, but you and I have been talking about this for a while. Everybody, spoiler alert. And it's not that we're fortune tellers and we can see the future. It's that I think it's just about how you have to put yourself in the audience's shoes. Yes. And I don't think enough people do that. Yes. I think, you make it about, if you make it about the auteur, it stays at the auteur. And I think it always has to be about thinking about what, if I'm the audience member, where am I? How do I want to consume this? What am I excited by? And marrying that with your own excitement as a creative person.
You said it perfect. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
100. And I know we only have a few minutes, so I just want to wrap up with one last question. Here at You Got Moxie, we're all about the how of change making. So instead of how I built this, it's how I changed this. Can you share one piece of advice for our audience when they're sitting in hope and they're like, I know everything's changing right now. I want to do something about it. I want to be proactive.
Yeah.
What piece of advice do you have for them to take that first step?
Yeah. I think in the area of, we call it corporately change management. I think what's most important is it has to start with curiosity. So a person needs to be like, okay, I'm going to learn about this. I'm just going to get the information.
Yeah.
And so I think the very first step is getting the information about what it is that's unclear.
Yeah.
And now you can get it. It's so easy to get information.
That's right.
Even through the use of certain chat and generative AI. But I think that right there, and then from there, once you learn that, you then make that decision.
That's right.
Okay, I like this or I don't like it. That's fine, but at least you did the investigation. And if you like it, then let's now try it.
That's right.
Right. And then do that, see what the response is, reinforce it.
Yep.
Iterate on it, and then keep going. And I think it's doing it with community as well is super important. So we're all working very remotely, but if we pull in folks that are just as much curious, then I think you can succeed.
I know. And that is, I think, the theme of the whole day here at State of the Industry, which is it's community. It's being together doing it and using all of our brain power and emotional power to harness it together to make that next step happen. 100%. Don't let it alone.
Yeah. And I would say, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'm really nervous. I'm scared. And that's part of the change mechanism.
Yes.
But once you get past that, I think then okay, come alongside. Let's get curious. Now see what are the things that are possible.
That's it.
The things that are currently that people are nervous about actually are there. It's opening yourself up to doing new projects that you wouldn't be able to do.
100%. It becomes about the art of the possible. And that I think is really what it's all about at the end of the day. It's actually why I named the company Collective Moxie, because change takes our collective Moxie. It takes the oomph that comes from all of us, and it's exactly what you're talking about. And we cannot thank you enough for being here, Christina. Thanks for joining us at You Got Moxie, and please come back. Can't wait to talk. Can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, love.
Thanks again for joining us for You Got Moxie. Continue to follow us and listen to your favorite episodes at collectivemoxie.com. That's collectivemoxie.com. We're excited to see you next time. Take care.